welcome back to Anti-King. It's been a while. I was invited to a fancy dinner on a private island, and it got out of hand. No, but it has been a while, and the last video I made was about my favorite horror movies of 2022. So I figured what better reason to return than to give you my most anticipated horror movies of 2023. And I have to say, 2023 has the potential to be just as stacked as 2022, if not more so. We've got some big franchise entries, some good old schlock, and some really refreshing original ideas as well. I will put out a slight disclaimer. There are one or two movies on this list that probably won't release until 2024, but have at least an outside chance of releasing later this year. Anyways, let's dive right into it. I will start this list with two movies that are already out, but that I've yet to have a chance to watch, but will soon. The first of which being Megan. So what's there to say about this movie that hasn't already been said? I'm actually not a huge James Wan fan, to be honest, but this one piqued my interest. It feels like this movie has been in development forever now, and it's cool to finally see it hit theaters. I know people complained about the campiness of James Wan's recent movie, Malignant, and I would expect those same people probably aren't going to be too fond of this one. I, however, loved Malignant, and a little bit of camp doesn't bother me. One worry I do have about this movie, however, is that I heard it was cut to be much more tame, and without seeing it, I could see how that could possibly dull its teeth. Skinamarink. It's fun to say. Another movie that has actually already been released, this micro-budget horror is already reaping major box office rewards. Very reminiscent of Paranormal Activity circa 2009. And the similarities don't end there, as Skinamarink is also a found footage style paranormal movie, or at least that's what I've gathered so far. I try to go into a lot of movies besides like the big franchises knowing as little as possible, so it's hard for me to give you a whole lot of information on this one. I can say, however, I've seen nothing but rave reviews from people I really trust about Skinamarink, and by the time you've watched this video, I've probably already watched it. While Jenna Ortega, who we'll get to later, was undoubtedly the breakout star of 2022, for me personally, it was easily Mia Goth, as her performances in X and especially Pearl last year legitimately cemented her as my favorite actor working right now, regardless of genre. This movie sets the stage for Brandon Cronenberg to cement his horror legacy alongside his brilliant father after helming the massively underrated Possessor a few years ago. This movie has high body horror potential, and it might actually be my most anticipated of the year. Due to copyright law, Winnie the Pooh enters the public domain after 100 years, and man, what a fun way to take advantage of that. It remains to be seen just how much of a budget this movie actually got, but I think it should make for some good schlock regardless. The synopsis is also extremely vague, stating only that Pooh and Piglet go on a murder spree after Christopher leaves them for college. So who really knows what we'll get with this one? I'm looking forward to finding out though. Scream 6 is another one of those movies that is covered in so much depth that it seems pointless for me to really say anything here. The setting changes from Woodsboro to New York City, and I think that actually has a lot of potential to be a fun change-up. The trailers also promise a ghost face like we've never seen before, so I'm excited to see if it lives up to its billing. Also, it features Samara Weaving and the aforementioned Jenna Ortega, who are two of my favorite horror actors right now. I was a huge fan of the 2013 remake, even in 2013 when, believe it or not, most people in the horror community were shitting all over it. I was so disappointed that Fede Alvarez never got a chance to do a sequel, and Ash vs. Evil Dead just wasn't really my cup of tea. So needless to say, the announcement of Evil Dead Rise had me ecstatic. Even though there's no Fede Alvarez or Jane Levy this time, and certainly no Abomination, this is another movie with a change in location that I think could really benefit the movie. This one taking place in the claustrophobic confines of a high-rise apartment building. The trailer just further confirmed for me how badass of a movie this is going to be, and I can't wait to see it. Beau is Afraid is one that I had to include, obviously. If you're not aware, it is the next movie from Ari Aster, who is responsible for both Hereditary and Midsommar, which are two legitimate modern horror classics. That being said, as much as I've heard this is a horror movie, it's just kind of hard to see that based on the promotional material. That being said, I truly have all the faith in the world in Ari Aster, and to have a lead as strong as Joaquin Phoenix attached really just serves to further that confidence. Saw 10, or Saw X, or Socks, coming in October. In its original run, me and my friends actually went to the theaters to see Saw 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm truly so invested in the series, it's ridiculous. I can fully admit the flaws in the Saw franchise, but nonetheless, I unironically love the entire series, until Jigsaw came out. And while I at least somewhat liked Spiral at first, I've grown to not care much for that one either. All of that being said though, this one seems like such a return to form for the franchise, with Tobin Bell set to return as Jigsaw, that I can't help but feel excited for this one as well. So these next two have slim to no chance of being released in 2023, but I will list them regardless because who knows? Maybe something changes between now and the end of the year. The first one being Maxine. I have probably drooled over the exceptional talent of Mia Goth enough on this channel, I know. But X and Pearl were such amazing pieces of horror that I can't wait to see where it goes from there. Picking up where X left off, we follow the one survivor of that movie, Maxine, as she attempts to make it in Hollywood. Like I said, there's a very, very slim chance we actually see this in 2023, but I have seen rumors that production could be sped up due to the popularity of the first two entries. And last but not least, a movie I think is much more likely to be on this list this time next year, Terrifier 3. It has, however, been greenlit, and Damien Leone promised that production would be much quicker this time around. So I figured it was worth at least putting on your radar for the upcoming year. So that was it. That's my list of most anticipated horror movies this year. Let me know what I missed because I'm sure there's just a ton, but please don't mention like The Nun or Insidious or The Conjuring. It's cool if you like those kind of movies, but I really don't. Also, I'm trying to keep track of what I watched this year with Letterboxd, but I don't really understand the social media aspects of that, so if anyone wants to explain that to me, that'd be great. Anyways, like and subscribe if you haven't. I should have a lot more stuff coming out in the next couple weeks, so stay tuned for those, and stay safe.